Hi guys, my name is Dean Hack. I'm a student at Florida International University studying electrical engineering, and again I'm taking another class with Faisal Kaleem. This time it's with networking. In my previous video that I released for him, I talked about fake access points. Now, if you haven't watched that video, I strongly encourage you to go back to my previous video and watch it because this video is going to be based on the similar concepts behind it. However, I will not be actually going through the details as far as running it in Backtrack. So if you were interested in fake access points, I strongly advise taking a look at my previous video. And moving forward with this video, I would like to introduce a new concept similar to fake access point, but it's called a fake evil twin. Now, yes, it's based on setting up a fake access point for people to connect to. However, instead of setting up a rogue access where it has a completely different name being broadcast for other users to connect to, we set it up in such a way that we imitate the exact same ESSID that's being emitted from the main network, and we encrypt the same signal with the same type of password protection as the main network. This can be a little bit confusing, so I'll go back over it one last time just to really make sure you understand. So let's say you have network A. Network A is broadcasting a unique ESSID. Let's take Starbucks for example. I have nothing against Starbucks. I'm not targeting them for any specific reason. It's just a very common place that a lot of people know about Wi-Fi hotspots. So let's take Starbucks back, for example. We have network A, which is Starbucks ESSID. They are broadcasting it with a specific security encryption, possibly web, for example. Now what we're going to do is you have network A over here, but because the signal only has a specific signal strength, we have my NIC card that I would set up now as network B. Now network B will be taking the connection from network A, routing it, and emitting a new signal which we will also label as Starbucks Wi-Fi, or the exact same name that network A was emitting. We will also put the same security passwords and everything needed, and what's going to happen is when you look at the device that's connecting to the internet, it will only see one ESSID. Even though there's two networks in total, it will only detect network B, primarily because network B is broadcasting a much stronger signal. And because of the way most devices are set up, they will connect to the strongest signal that they can get. So that way, it eliminates network A without actually eliminating it. So again, you have network A over here, you have network B, which I'm the hacker, I'm broadcasting network B, and there's still a link between the two networks, right? But everyone else will be connecting to network B, okay? So that's how the fake evil twin works. Backtrack offers it, and you can set it up the exact same way, and it's pretty effective. Now, the big difference between the fake evil twin and the fake access is with fake evil twin, you only see one ESSID being broadcast, whereas with the fake access point that I set up in EasyCred, that you're able to set up your own rogue access. You can broadcast whatever you want to call it. Let's say you have Starbucks 1, you have Starbucks 2, whichever you like, you are free to set that up. Now, another concept that I want to introduce is called port scanning, and a big misconception a lot of people have is with Windows security updates. So let's start with the Windows security updates actually. It's very important that you stay on top of that, especially whenever they're released. It's pretty critical that you install it as soon as possible. Don't wait a week, don't wait 2 weeks. Yes, I understand the installation process can be a bit lengthy, especially when you're ready to, let's say, I don't know, most people do it right before they go to bed, and they're waiting for their computer to shut down before they actually go to bed, and it's a long process. It's quite annoying, I would say. But the point behind it is to protect you and protect your information that's on your computer. Everybody nowadays, they have a lot of very valuable information being stored on their computers. And without the proper steps taken to protect your information, your things can be stolen quite easily. And today, I will show you a list of exploits that are listed within a new OS release of Backtrack called Kali Linux. Let me just show you Kali Linux really quickly. So here we have the fresh installation of Kali Linux that I will be using today to show you a little bit about port scanning. We're also going to go into the Metasploit a little bit and talk about another user thing called Armitage. It's a GUI interface that kind of incorporates a lot of other things together. It's a nice little package to work with. But back to Windows updates. If you don't install them, you're leaving vulnerabilities that have been found. They're going to be left on your computer, because if they're not patched, then if that exists in one of these operating systems such as Kali Linux, and you become the target of a hacker, they will know whether or not that exploit will work by running what I'll show you in a little bit. So please, if you haven't done so already, please go to your Action Center in Windows 7, and this also applies to Mac. So Mac users, I have a Mac, but as much as I know that Macs are really secure, they still have vulnerabilities, and it's also imperative that you stay on top of those updates as well from the App Store. And Windows 7 users, Windows 8 users, stay on top of it. Although it's a very annoying process, it's still very, very critical to your security, as well as, protecting everything else on your computer. Now, one thing I wanted to say is, even though you might be a college student, even though you might not have a lot of money that people may not be interested in, hackers aren't always after your information or credentials or those type of things. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but a lot of times they're after your machine, because in order for them to attack a bigger target, they might want to use a smaller target to start from. So they'll probably take control of your computer and use your computer to attack a bigger target. Now the problem with that is, if the FBI gets involved and they do tracing and your computer comes up, well, they'll be knocking at your door. So it's good to help protect everyone else as well by protecting your machine. One less machine for a hacker to get their hands on, be a lot better going forward for the security world itself. So one thing I want to show you guys really quickly is port scanning. Now, again, with patches, it protects those ports. A lot of times there are exploits that are found through those ports, and that's how hackers get into your computer. So let me show you a quick application that you can run in Kali Linux for port scanning. If you go here to Kali Linux itself, we can go down to vulnerability analysis. In vulnerability analysis, we can go for scanners. And the two nicest ones that we can use are ZenMap and Nmap. Nmap is the main one, and ZenMap is a GUI interface for Nmap. For the sake of time, I'm going to run the ZenMap. Now, I have a little netbook set up over here, and I already have a predetermined IP address configuration for this, which I've run IP configuration on the CMD here, and I already know what my IP address is, so that I'm going to go ahead and enter that in really quickly. It is 192.168.1.68. And here are a few options that we have. So I want to scan all my TCP ports on this little netbook. And all I have to do is go ahead and hit scan. Now, if you notice, already it's starting to pick up a few of the ports that are opened. So here we have a discovered port on 139, another discovered port on 135. It will probably pick up a few more, but it may take a little bit longer for that to go through, but that's how port scanning is done. Now, there are other interfaces that you can use for port scanning. There is the Nmap, which has a lot more options, but it's more command-based. And if you're not comfortable with the command base, well, you might want to go for the ZenMap, and you can mess around with that just a little bit. So if we go back over here, let's see, it's still going. So, I mean, you see, it found 2 ports open. Last time I ran this, it found about 10, 15 ports open. Since then, I've actually closed off a lot of those ports, but no big deal. That is port scanning. You see, it's still going. But the next thing I want to show is the MSF console from Metasploit. And the way that is done is it's completely command-based again. So I'll start this off by running MSF console, and this takes a couple minutes to go through, but the point of MSF console is you have different payloads and different exploits that can be done. And I will show you the listing that they have currently on this database for both of those, the exploits and the payloads. So we'll just wait for this to run. In the meantime, I will actually open up another command prompt, move this to, okay, so this one's ready, but on this one I'll also get something else started called Armitage. So we'll go ahead and run Armitage on this. Now over here, you have the option to stay within the Metasploit Basic, or you can go to Metasploit Pro. Of course, when you go to the Pro version, you have a lot more exploits that can be used. I'm not going to do that in this video, although it's simple. You just have to type go_pro, and instantly it goes right through. But for this, I'll just stay for the basic stuff. I'll let this connect. Once this is connected, I'll be able to show the 2 listings. Over here, Armitage is being started, which is good. That's exactly what I want. Go ahead and close that out. We'll not need that for Armitage. And then over here, so we're ready for MSF console, Metasploit. So the first thing I'll run is a command so you can see all the exploits. So it's show exploits. Pretty simple. And this is going to go through and retrieve all the exploitations. In the meantime, let's go back and make sure this is running okay. Unfortunately, that stopped. Let's run that again. Okay, but coming back now to the MSF console, we see a whole long list of exploitations that are out there. Now you see most of these are for Windows based, and they tell you exactly which ones are excellent, normal, good, average, as far as how effective they have worked, and they tell you the release dates. So you can go through and find pretty recent ones. For example, this one, which was released January 2nd of 2013. Well, this is Armitage starting up. Let's go ahead and send this over to the other workspace so we can get to Armitage in a little bit. But you see, we have a whole listing here for Windows. Also, if you go up a little bit more, you'll see Linux. Linux has a few exploitations as well. But not only that, let's see. Haha, this is what I want to show you. OS X. Apple. Although many believe Apple is completely secure, well, here is a long list of exploits for Apple. So Apple users, I'm sorry, but protect your Apple computer, please. Again, we have different ones for average, success, excellent, and whatnot. Now that was for exploits. Let's go ahead and show the payloads. Now, quick differentiation between the two. Exploits allow for access onto the computer itself. It's holes and security breaches where a hacker can break into your computer. Whereas payloads, it's probably a command shell-based script that will be forced onto the computer itself, and it will probably self-install. There's different ways that these payloads can be placed onto the computers, but a lot of times it's done straight through the ports by port forwarding, and once they're actually able to go into the ports and probably upload them onto the computer itself, the target PC itself, or whichever device it's using, or targeting, I should say. I'm sorry. It will install itself in the background, and sometimes you will even be able to get a command-based GUI on your end so that you can control that device itself. So it's a little bit tricky to understand, but there is a big difference between exploits and payloads. Now we're going to focus on the payload side. So here we see a long list of payloads that can be uploaded. For example, here is a Windows shell bind TCP. This is a good example of something that would install onto the computer, and it would give me a command shell on my side so that I can actually start typing on my command prompt from my side on Linux as though I'm typing on that computer directly. So I can start typing a bunch of commands to control that computer or find information I need from that computer to do what I need it to do. Aside from that, we have different injections that we can go through and really do some damage or find some really good stuff or good information. Again, we have OSX payloads, so OSX is still a victim of these, and Unix and whatnot, Linux, Solaris here, Ruby. So you see there are different things that have payloads, and everything is a victim. So if you think you're safe, trust me, you're not. You constantly have to stay on top of security and keeping your system safe. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is Armitage. Armitage is a really nice GUI interface. It basically does the exact same thing as what you see here. If you notice the MSF here, and if you go back to this screen, you see the MSF again down here because it is running off of Metasploit framework. It just makes it a little bit easier to work with. So if you notice, this is the exact same IP. I have this preloaded. This is for my little netbook, and I can run different things. So if I want, I can scan this, or I can go find attacks for this specific thing, this specific machine. It'll query the exploits and find exactly what exploits might work on this machine. I have since patched this machine, so nothing will work, but just to give you an example, if I right-click on it, here we go. I have different attacks that I can now run on it. Now, because this is my machine and it's the only one I have listed in this part of the screen, what I'll do is something that most hackers don't do. It's called Hail Mary. It just sends, well, here's what it says. Once started, the Hail Mary will launch a flood of exploits at hosts in current workspace. There's nothing stealthy about this action. If clumsily launched, hundreds of exploits is what you would need. If clumsily launching hundreds of exploits is what you would like to do, press yes. I'll do it. So it's going to launch a lot of exploits at this machine, and it will tell you down here, there you go, it found 21 exploits that could possibly work, but because my machine is patched, it's not going to do anything. So even if you do run any of these specifically, nothing will happen to my machine. But I could show you that again in MSF console, or I could do it right down here. Once this listing session is done, I will actually run, let's see, this one right down here. This ms08_067. So here we go. Awesome. I'm ready to run this command. So what we'll do is show options. While that loads, actually, I could just do it from up here too. So under SMB, here we go. This is the same one. I'll select that, and I have options here that I can configure, but everything is already preset because this has already been here. And it targets this port, which earlier when I scanned, this port was open. So if I go ahead and I launch this attack, you'll see that the exploit failed, no matching target. That's because my machine is protected on that. Now, the one thing I want to leave you guys with is the concept of ports. Just because a port is opened doesn't mean it's vulnerable for an exploit. It's just listening. It's ready to do business with authentication. So just because you see a port open doesn't mean you're going to easily be able to break right into that computer. It's going to take a lot more than that. So hopefully you found this video a little bit educational. I would like you guys to please, if you haven't done so already, update your computers and run any additional security measures that need to be installed. Make sure your antivirus database is also up to date. It's not enough just to stop at Windows Update. You have to update your antivirus. Also, the one thing that a lot of people don't also target is their routers. Your routers also have firmware that need to be updated, because the last thing you want is a hacker to be sitting in your router and just sniffing all your traffic over the internet. That'd be very bad. So that's the last bit of advice I have for you guys today. Hopefully you found this enlightening and you're going to take some steps to protect yourself in the future. Again, my name is Izzadeen Haque, and thank you for watching this.